Hi everyone, this is Robert and welcome to IDG Live. This is the second of two live streams today. Trailer breakdowns. We were expecting the trailer for the Rings of Power, which means the teaser trailer for the Rings of Power, which did indeed happen today. But what we weren't expecting was that in about an hour after that dropped, House of the Dragon dropped its final trailer as well. So two different trailers. I decided I did want to cover them both, but rather than trying to squash them both into one live stream, I've done two shorter live streams. If you wanted my breakdown of the Rings of Power, you will find that video here. I just finished doing that one, and now I'm coming on to look at House of the Dragon Season 2. So, I will try and do this the same way that I did the last one. I will I will run through the trailer, explain what I think is happening in the different scenes that we see. I'm not just going through it sort of from beginning to end as a trailer. I'm trying to pick out the different scenes and patch them together in what I think is actually a more logical order rather than just what looks cool in a trailer. Now, the other thing to say just before we dive into this is the usual spoiler warning. Book spoilers here on this channel are fine. TV show spoilers are not fine. Now, as it happens, I don't know any TV show spoilers. That may or may not always be the case. Sometimes you do get stuff spoiled for you. But what happens in the book? They have roughly been keeping to it in season one, I would say, at a high level, very, very well, but there have been some quite significant shifts going through it as well. So if you want to stay completely new to this and not knowing what's going to happen, then proceed with caution. Right, so let's just dive into this straight away. Let's see if I can get the technology to work again. Yeah, here we go. Let's do this. So, we start off here we've seen similar shots and similar themes coming up in the previous trailers. This is the third trailer I think that we've had for House of the Dragon so far. This is the last one, apparently. We're now just a matter of a few weeks away, 3 weeks away now, I think, from this, or maybe 4 weeks away from the show premiere. So although we may well be getting a few more promo shots, behind the scenes stuff, I think that it's probably this is the last main trailer that we're going to be getting. At which point we'll cover it at some point. It's worth noting what we haven't got here. Feel free to pick up any ask questions about these things, but in none of the trailers really have there's been like a sidelong glance at Larys Strong, the clubfoot. Not much emphasis on him at all. We've had not much. We've been told that Diren Targaryen down in Old Town will be making an appearance in season 2. We haven't really seen him. We've been told that Alice Rivers is going to be making an appearance. Don't think we've seen her, or maybe we'll see her, or part of her. We'll get onto that in this trailer in just one moment. There are a few other things that you go, well, I'm not so sure. We did get an image of Lady Jane Arryn about a week or so ago, actually, but she's not really appeared in the trailers, though I think we have some hints here about what they're going to be including in that. So there are lots of different things that aren't in the trailers that we might expect to be there. But let's get into what we do have here. So here we have, as I say, we've had a few, the same kind of mood going through a lot of these trailers. Here it's Rhaenyra gazing moodily out over the waters. She's in an impossible situation. War now is almost certainly going to be happening. Just to remind you where we left off this story, we left it with the last significant action was that battle above Shipbreaker Bay, when you had Aemond on Vhagar, basically completely taking out Alex and Lucerys. Targaryen, Lucerys Velaryon, who is her second-born child. And obviously, this leaves her absolutely bereft. The last shot we had of season 1 was her being told. Damon tells her about this, and then her looking almost directly into the camera with this look of war in her eyes. Suddenly, we've got past the point where we can maybe stop things from happening. Now, this is definitely going to be war. But let's start over here with what's happening with Team Green. Now, Aegon, he took a bit of convincing, it has to be said. He took a bit of convincing to be king. He got he started out saying that he didn't think that he was made for it. That wasn't really what he was about. Aemond thought that he could do a better job of being king. He had to be almost pushed into it. But you did kind of see when he did get crowned at that coronation, the crown went on his head. He got given the sword's Blackfire. He held it up above his head, and you could almost see this kind of change. He has the power now. He's embracing this. Of course, everything changed there with Rhaenys on Melis bursting up through the floor, which was a show-only thing for those who are wondering, that one of the big changes that they made for season 1. But there he is. He is claiming the crown, and he is taking his place as the king in King's Landing. So he is the king in power at this point. And it's worth pointing out here where the balance of power is at this point. The Greens are in King's Landing. They have had their candidate crowned by the High Septon with the great ceremonial sword Blackfire, the sword of King Aegon, in his hand. They have the treasury, is all of theirs. They've got Vhagar, the greatest dragon in the land. They've gained first blood by destroying or killing one of their enemies, and they've got the advantage of appearing to be in place. Rhaenyra now has to displace Aegon. So she is, though, very much thinking, yeah, he has usurped my throne. And this, although we don't see the context for this, this is very much symbolic of her choosing the sword, as it were. That stance, though, one thing a number of people have pointed out, you could imagine Daemon, her husband Daemon, he's taken that very same stance with a straight arm and the sword just carrying on in that long straight line. That is very much his kind of stance. Does seem to imply that perhaps he has helped teach her some of the whatever combat skills that she has. So what's the plan? We're going to King's Landing, says Daemon. This is him speaking to Rhaenys, incidentally. Now, he has, in the books, it's very clear, he says there must be vengeance, an eye for an eye, a son for a son. So he heads off to King's Landing. And when he's saying we are going to King's Landing, the clear question here is, who is that who's going with him? Is it Rhaenys herself? It's possible. We do not know. But in any event, he seems to. This here is Lady Mysaria, his ex-lover, who has now gained herself a position of power within King's Landing, basically at the head of her own independent spy network. It's probably spy and extortion network is probably the fairer way of saying it. Now, this was a kind of a blink and you'll miss it kind of moment towards the end of season 1. She now has a massive grievance against Team Green because we kind of missed this because of what was happening on screen, but you get, pardon me, Larys Strong, Master of Whisperers, go ahead from Alicent to be destroying her network. Why? Because she was basically working for Otto, and or there certainly was, a big rift at the heart of Team Green. They're not a unified force. Otto was on a separate side to his daughter Alicent, and Otto was using Messalina, and Alicent was using Laris as their sort of um, head of spies. And Laris wanted to get rid of the opposition, which he does. He sends somebody out and firebombs her home. Now, why you might have missed that is because when Laris was getting permission to do that and explaining all of this background, that was where there was that foot scene happening. So everybody was focusing in on the foot scene and what on earth is happening here, rather than actually what he was talking about. But he was talking about a spy war. So Messalina now wants back at the Greens. And um, so when Damon goes back into King's Landing, and he will feel that he can secretly slip into King's Landing, and he's got friends there. He was the head of the Gold Cloaks for a long time. He knows his way around the small folk and Flea Bottom, and he will approach her, and this is almost certainly a conversation with her, and she is saying, "You can win a war without having a whole battle." And what she almost certainly suggests here is blood and cheese, which, if you've read the books, then you'll know exactly what that is. This is somebody being paid for that. Now, this is the one thing that I think I won't be spoiling. If you do not know what blood and cheese is, this is going to be quite a significant moment in the first couple of episodes. So that's the first bit of plot. The build up to the immediate reaction from Team Black to what happened at the end of season 1. Let's have a quick flick through the chat. Northern Tommy, it'll make Damon look less evil. This is a kind of a theme, I would say, that one of the things that they have changed as a matter of emphasis is when George R. R. Martin talks about Daemon Targaryen, he talks about him as being mad, bad, dangerous to know, and the Matt Smith version, this is not on the actor at all. I think Matt Smith's actually doing an excellent job, but it's a lot softer. He clearly loves and cares for some people in his life, and the ruthlessness sometimes emerges, but isn't always there at the surface. So they have kind of softened his character a little bit, I would say. Let's Matthew Stewart saying, it's been some time since I've read Fire and Blood. When does the fish feed take place? Is that more of a season 3 or 4 thing? Yeah, my guess is probably that's a season 3 thing. Just having a quick flick through. Yeah, I'll agree with reminding people I did actually do a video on the Spy War if you're interested in that, because I think it did go under the radar quite a little bit for some people. Right, so let's go and have a look at the next set of images. So, having looked at Team Black's response, we now switch our attention to Team Green. Now, I mentioned a little bit earlier, Team Green, they have divisions. So the division that we see towards the end of season 1 is a division between Alicent and Otto, where Otto is fully in favor of very strong action to be claiming the crown. And Alicent is a lot softer. She wants to give Rhaenyra a chance to reach some kind of negotiated settlement, something along those lines. So that's the original line of demarcation that we have to start with. What happened with Blood and Cheese will lead to a much stronger desire, particularly from Aegon, to have a robust response. So here he's saying, what are we going to do about it? Holding up the dagger. Now, this is effectively the Green Council meeting to discuss what to do about it all. And we get various, in this trailer, they sort of dot it about throughout the trailer, but it's very clear we're going to get a lot of internal, personal level politics between the members of the Green Council trying to establish who is in control. Here we have Alicent, who is probably now starting to realize that having brought Aegon into play, she was the person who pushed him into getting that full coronation, is now finding him a lot harder to control than perhaps she might have thought. So here she's with her other son, or one of her other sons, Aemond. The text at the bottom there, we must play the board before us. That is Otto. Now, compared to some of the rasher heads in the council, is actually appearing to be quite centralist, quite pragmatic, not the person that Alicent found herself up against before. She imagined he was being the person who was being probably more pro-war, but now he's being the person who's wanting to send letters out across the land to all of the lords to try and get them onto his side through negotiation. But there are others in the council who want an even stronger response than that. She is saying, proceed cautiously. Aemond keeping his counsel to himself, but Aegon's response, I want revenge. So, Alicent, having started off pushing her son to be claiming the crown because she felt that this was right, now sees the rush towards war and wants to end the war. She, it would appear, is being portrayed within House of the Dragon, not so much in the book, but in House of the Dragon, as being the person who first out of everybody is wanting to end the war, to stop the war. Now, we get a lot, that's just Aemon sort of querying her on it, but we get a lot of shots. We'll come up to some of them here. We've had a few of them previously, of Alicent looking contemplative, sad, a lot of buyer's remorse. We've had quite a lot of images of her seemingly praying in the Great Sept, lighting candles. There's a shot of her. We've got one later on here, but already we've seen a shot of her standing by a lakeside, just gazing out over it. She seems to be very much not now wanting to be involved in this war. This clearly has an impact on Team Green. And we get this, which I think is Aegon, Aemon, sorry, saying this. Or no, it's not. I beg your pardon. This was Kristen Cole saying, Alicent holds love for our enemy. That makes her a fool. So we're now starting to see, here we go, that's Kristen Cole. We're now starting to see the original Team Green lines dividing it start to shift, and you get the people who are really very strongly in favor of let's prosecute this war as hard and as fast as we possibly can. People like Kristen Cole, people like Aemond, people like Aegon. Otto holding this central ground, Alicent now turning very much to be anti-war. People like Larys Strong it will be fascinating to see, because I say we haven't seen much of him in these trailers. It'll be fascinating to see where he ends up during this season. And there's obviously, we've got Tywin Lannister and a few other people within that group who we don't get to see where they stand. But Team Green, we're going to have a lot of internal politics. So that's the next lot. Just quickly flicking back to the chat. Christina Waller saying just a thank you very much. I appreciate that. Matthias saying Alicent holds love for our enemy. Great line from Aemond. But also he says that we have a shot of Rhaenyra. Look, Rhaenysant is real, folks. Yes. So what? One of the changes that we had here for season 1 of House of the Dragon is that they deliberately created a stronger initial bond between Rhaenyra and Alicent. In the book, Alicent was 9 years older than Rhaenyra. So when she married Rhaenyra's father, she was 18 and Rhaenyra was 9. So what we saw on the TV show was that they were best friends at this point, and that caused a little bit of a strain in their relationship. They were never best friends in the book. That was never, I mean, that apparently they got on to start with, but the fault lines appeared quite quickly. So the creation of this kind of tension between the two of them, that they do care about each other, and underlying all this, they probably neither of them want to go to war with each other. That is not there in the book. So this is creating a new dynamic. And what seems to be happening here in season 2 is the continuation of that, to the point where we're going to get at least Alicent, and possibly at some point Rhaenyra, who doesn't appear quite as gung-ho as some people, not wanting the war, and it's other people who are pushing it forward. And Michelle Raymer just picking up on that point, saying, I'm a little sad we're not getting evil stepmother Alicent, but adding nuance to her character was the right move. Yeah, I completely understand it. So the big shift for her was that they gave her an actual reason to believe that she was in the right, not just I want this for my child. I think that Rhaenyra is wrong and bad, but she genuinely seems to think that on his deathbed, her husband Viserys said that her son Aegon should inherit. So that's the big difference, is that we now should have some sympathy for her. Maybe not sympathy is not the wrong word, but not the right word, but we should be able to understand now why she held the position that she held. Andrew Kay saying, I hope House of the Dragon lean in more with the flaws and ambitions overall. That's what this conflict is all about. Yes, I think I would agree with that completely. The flaws and ambitions is very central to this. I think the issue we have is that the way that Fire and Blood was written was very clearly, and this is deliberate by George R. R. Martin, clearly there that we do not fully understand anyone's exact roles, minds and ambitions, motivations, because it's not written from anybody's POV. It's written as a history book from historians. So we're getting what Monken thought, or we're getting what Mushroom's tale was, rather than actually what Rhaenyra thinks or what Alicent thinks. On the TV show, they did incidentally, and this is I found fascinating. If you go back to, and I can't remember when this was, maybe a couple of years ago, History of Westeros, friends of this channel, they had an interview with George R. R. Martin himself and talked about House of the Dragon. And one of the things he was talking about was this idea of the different competing narrators. And they decided it might, I think, touched on it in this interview, also expanded in another interview he gave around the same time. And he was saying how they had thought, he and the showrunners had thought could they replicate this in the TV show where you have lots of competing perspectives and it's still left to the viewer to decide what is right and what was not right? They did consider that, but eventually decided no, they would just go for one agreed narrative that ran through the whole thing. Okay, let's get back to the trailer. Let's go to these images. Okay, so one thing Team Green agreed quite quickly was to send Eric Cargill off to Dragonstone on an assassination attempt, basically. Eric and Arik, the twins, one joined Team Black, one joined Team Green, and the decision in the book, this was, I think, Otto's decision actually, was to send him over there to Dragonstone, pretending to be his brother, thinking that will allow him to have free access through Dragonstone Castle and kill. We don't know exactly who it was supposed to kill, perhaps Rhaenyra herself or somebody that she loved, as revenge, as we saw here. That's what Aegon wanted. Now, what exactly happened depends on which account you read, but there was a fight between the two brothers, and they both died. That bit everybody agrees on. Whether or not this fight was a long and glorious one with them both swearing eternal love for each other, or whether it was a short one where they just both destroyed each other very quickly, it's a matter of interpretation. Here, probably it's not going to be an epic battle that lasts for hours, but probably more than just a couple of blows. And that will very clearly cement the idea that Team Green are now not backing down. It could, it was hardly ever likely to be the case, but it could have been that Team Black could lose one of theirs and then get revenge back on Team Green by killing one of theirs, and that could be that. And maybe they could have just come to some kind of understanding. Very unlikely, but maybe. This prevented that at all. This was now war. This is now Otto speaking. News spreads throughout the realm. The great houses will come to our side. This is his approach. He's sending out letters to people saying, come on, join our side. We'll put down the pretender Rhaenyra, and that's his approach. But that is not what Aegon wants. Aegon wants revenge. And this slowly approach from Otto starts to grate with him, to the extent that here, this is Criston Cole. Now, exactly why he's riding on his horse and pulling that face, we'll get to in just 1 second. But the important point here is if you see around his neck, that is a chain of hands. He is now Hand of the King. Aegon deposes his own grandfather as Hand of the King and puts in place Criston Cole, who we know is an absolute Rhaenyra hater. He's not, and I've just been doing a video on Criston Cole. It'll come out at some point, I'm sure, in the next few weeks. But in writing it, it struck me when I was doing a character study of him, every single time we hear him speak, he is casting shade on Rhaenyra. He's saying how terrible she is. He's saying how it would be wrong and bad if she ever became queen. He persuades Aegon, in the book, it's him who persuades Aegon to become king, because he says, you know what, Rhaenyra is just going to come and try and kill you. Everything he says is against Rhaenyra. We never once have him on record saying, because Aegon, we should be supporting Team Green because Aegon is a great king, or because he's the best candidate, or anything positive about Aegon. It's always only not her. So Criston Cole here is driven by all kinds of bad motivations. He's not pro Team Green so much as anti Rhaenyra. But he has now been made Hand of the King, which will lead partway through season 2 will lead to a shift in the approach that Team Green have away from let's try and gather support through politics and through negotiation to let's try and take the attack to the enemy. And the attack that they do starts out with them taking out a few of the castles of Rhaenyra's allies that are close to King's Landing. Now, the last one they come to, it's I think actually the second or third different castle, is Rook's Rest. Now, this is an image of this one that we've seen a couple of times before now. This is the army come out of King's Landing and heading up towards Rook's Rest. Whether that exactly is Rook's Rest or one of the other castles, we do not know. But clearly, I think this is a response by Daemon to news that the army has just headed out from King's Landing, by saying, and without apparently any support from dragons, by saying, I did not think they would be so eager to die. He clearly thinks that all you have to do is send a dragon over there and destroy the army. Here's a shot of some Lannister soldiers. Now, in the book, they're on Team Green. They don't get involved in the Battle of Rook's Rest, which we're about to look at, but they do get involved in bringing an army across from the west, which starts getting engaging in battles with armies in the Riverlands. It starts getting very messy in the Riverlands. Whether they will keep that or try and simplify it, get rid of a few of the battles, we'll have to wait and see. But here we have the army which seems to be besieging Rook's Rest. So they're sort of hiding underneath this canopy of trees. Now, one of the things George R. R. Martin said when he said he wanted 3 things for House of the Dragon, 3 special requests on his part. One of them was that he wanted Jaehaerys II reintroduced into the official timeline of rulers of the 7 kingdoms. There's a whole reason for that, not for this stream, but that was one of the things. Another thing he said was that he wanted to have the dragons to be very clearly distinguished, different colors and things like that. And the third is that he wanted house sigils to be a lot clearer, a lot brighter. Now, because he felt in Game of Thrones that, the big houses, you've got to recognize, that's the Lion of Lannister or whatever. Here, in a medieval battle, what was emblazoned on your shield told everybody whose side you were on, and he wanted that to be sort of spread out much more widely and the colors much more vivid. And so here we actually see this in action. We've got 3 different shields, I think, on offer. So I think this is House Darkling right at the front, the sort of the yellow and red one. I think that's the green one with a white stag on it is House Stokeworth, and House Rosby is the other one with the sort of the chevrons, the white one with the red chevrons pointing there. Those 3 houses, this is really good, actually. This is an attention to detail thing that I think we do have to applaud, where these things happen. The showrunners have got this right. Those are the 3 houses, along with the Targaryens, who played a part in the Battle of Rook's Rest. So this is what we're seeing here, is the armies from these 3 smaller houses that are based just near King's Landing, coming out for this battle. Now, this appears to be a very similar shot. That will be Rook's Rest in the distance. As I say, I'll leave it to you to decide whether this castle here and that castle there are the same. This seems to have quite a lot of green grass around it. That seems to be a lot dustier, more deserty. So perhaps they're different, but in any event, this one definitely appears to be Rook's Rest because of the different families that are there and what seems to be happening next in the action. This is Moondancer. Moondancer is being ridden by Baela Targaryen. Now, this seems to be the same area. What happened in the book is that Rhaenys on Melis, her dragon, came out on her own whilst doing normal sort of surveillance of the area, saw what was going on, the siege of there, and basically got engaged with the battle. Here, this implies that she was not alone. Her granddaughter here, Baela, was with her. Now, we have been told this actually by some of the actors involved that they have beefed up the roles of some of the younger members of both sides, in fact. So it's not just focusing in on people like Daemon and Rhaenyra and Alicent. We're looking at some of the younger members of the tour. One of the ways in which they seem to have done this is Baela played not a huge role in the dance on Moondancer. She was involved, but certainly not in the Battle of Rook's Rest. Here they seem to have introduced her into that battle. But more significantly, this is a trap. It's not just that there's lots of soldiers hidden away underneath the tree line, it's that we have two dragons who are going to come out to fight and ambush. In the book, it was just Melis, but Melis and Moondancer. This is King Aegon himself, I'm pretty sure. He is on Sunfire, his dragon. Sunfire we didn't see in season 1. Sunfire is described as perhaps the most beautiful dragon of the age. The color was vivid golden. In fact, so recognizable was this dragon that Aegon took for his personal sigil, a golden dragon. And so he was there, not just being a king sort of sitting in his castle ordering people out. He was a part of this attack with Aemond and him on two of the largest, Vhagar, the largest, but also Sunfire was a very mature dragon as well, taking on, in the book, just Melis, and here it would appear to be Melis and Moondancer. And there you see, this is, I'm pretty sure that's Vhagar. The result is not pretty for Rhaenys, it has to be said. Let's and Andrew K in the chat, having a quick look at the chat. Do we know if Moondancer is going to actually fight, or perhaps arrive just in time to witness the ambush on Rhaenys? Well, that bit we do not know. Is in all honesty, this appears to be Baela gazing up at something with a look of shock and horror on her face. So it's possible that what has happened here is that, yes, she did arrive just too late and she just saw what happened. We don't know. But we have previously had a shot of her on Dragonback sort of screaming as if she was in battle. So the working assumption is that she was involved in the battle, but if it turns out she just arrives just too late and sees what happens, then I think that fits too. Gabriel Miller saying, I want to see the Cannibal or Sheep Stealer, Maul supporters of Rhaenyra on Dragonstone. I don't think we'll see Cannibal this season. Sheep Stealer, possibly. We'll have to wait and see on that one, I think. The 16 shirt saying, I think we'll see the aftermath of the battle through Baela arriving late. Yeah, I mean, that's entirely possible. I could be persuaded on this to be true. Shay J saying Aegon with the crown worked into his helm. Is that what we've got going on here? Let's have a quick look here. Yeah, absolutely. Look, there he is. He's even on Dragonback. He's wearing that crown. So he's very much bought into this idea of being king. Right. Matthew Stewart saying, "Don't destroy my hopes, cannibal." No, so the thing I would say is that cannibal. If you had to pick one of the dragons to exclude from this story because they're not actually central to the dance, it would have to be cannibal. Um, I think the showrunners will be very wary of having too many dragons at any given moment in time. They they did deliberately, I think, didn't introduce all of the dragons in season one. There are, I think, 5 new ones for season two. Um, so they could have introduced even more. This is why we haven't, we're talking about people we haven't really seen. Nettles, it's not 100% clear whether we've seen her. There was an image we had a while ago of what looked like the dragon seeds sat around a table, and there were 3 dragon seeds plus Baylor. And the question was, does this mean that Baylor is going to be taking on some of Nettles' storyline? Because by that point, it appeared maybe Nettles wasn't there. In the book, though, it is pretty clear that the first 3 dragons were claimed, if not straight away, then it didn't take too long for them to be claimed. Whereas Sheepstealer, that took a little while longer. A few people will come onto one of them in a moment. A few people did try. In fact, Sheepstealer killed the majority of people who were killed during that process were killed by Sheepstealer, and Nettles only managed to claim Sheepstealer through quite a long, drawn-out process of bringing a sheep every day for Sheepstealer to eat. So the fact that we haven't seen any images of Nettles here, I think, pardon me, I think that doesn't mean that Nettles isn't going to appear. That might mean that they're just sticking by this book idea that it took a little while longer. Let's go back to this one here. So yeah, there was Baylor who sees something. Now, what we've got here are 3 images that are possibly from the same thing. Um, the starting point probably here. This is Alicent and Helena. Probably that looks to me as if they're in mourning gowns of some kind. Mourning. The green is a very deep green for the House Hightower, being their color rather than the very vibrant green, very deep green, and a black veil. They appear to be running, trying to get out of the way of a mob of the small folk. Now, the people holding them back there are some gold cloaks, the gold cloaks being the city watch, basically. This looks like it might well be another shot of that same thing. Those are some gold cloaks from the POV here, perhaps of Alicent or Helena, and that's them running. And this, again, seems to be small folk bursting through somewhere. So, what do we have going on here? There are several riots of different scales that happen from this moment on in King's Landing. Now, there's, well, I should probably just say the core reason here is that people get more and more scared as the more and more they realize that actually a real civil war with dragons is starting to unfold. There were disturbances when you get the funeral that we appear to be seeing there. Then, after the Battle of Rook's Rest, Melis, the head of Melis, the dragon, gets towed into King's Landing. Massive dragon head hauled into King's Landing and through the streets. and everybody they know whose dragon this was. They know this is Rhaenys Targaryen's dragon. They know that she's on the other side. They know that her husband is one of the most powerful men in the land, and she's dead, and her dragon head is being paraded through King's Landing. People then realize there's going to be vengeance. The Team Black are going to be coming back here, and they've got a lot of dragons on Team Black. And people try desperately to get out of the city. Alicent orders the gates locked to stop people from escaping the city. Later on, the riots get even worse. But I do wonder here if what we're seeing is they've kind of merged a few of these things into one, just to show the feel of the small folk starting to bubble up into anger. The storming of the dragon pit is probably, I mean, if I had to guess, the end of season 2 or towards the end of season 3. But we have to start building up there. We have to start seeing this isn't just a game being played by the 1%, the big noble families. This affects everyone. And they have started to do this. They seeded this idea already. Season 1, when Daemon takes Rhaenyra down into Flea Bottom, he gives her a little lecture about how you need to understand what's going on with the people. When you get Rhaenys on Melis, bursting up through the floor of the dragon pit, we're left to think, okay, so who's there? Who got hurt by this? It's the small folk. The small folk got literally herded in there, forced to stand there, and then a whole load of them died by dragon. They're starting to get angry, and this is just a low-level anger we see here, but this is going to bubble up a whole lot more over the course of the next couple of seasons. So that's what's going on there. Let's shift over to this. Doesn't really come out very well. I think that's Daemon there that we're looking at. But when exactly this next thing, this is Corlys Velaryon, head of the largest fleet around, all-round legend. Rhaenys was his wife. Whether this happens after Rhaenys died, we don't know, but he's there saying, "My ships sail at your command." Basically, he's equivocated a little. He was very ill at the very start of the dance, but now he's back on side and he sees this as his last great adventure. And here we have a few of these ships here. You can't quite make it out. It's quite dark light there, but that's the Sea Lion of House Velaryon on those sails. And this is very exciting. This is Alyn of Hull, as he probably is at this moment in time. Now, Alyn and his brother Adam are going to be very important. They come forward as dragon seeds. This is when they first emerge. The idea of the dragon seeds is that Team Black had a whole load of dragons with no riders. They invited forward some people who thought that they had Valyrian, well, it was almost an open invite. People who thought that they had Valyrian ancestry and could bond with a dragon, they were allowed to come and try and bond with a dragon. Adam and Alyn put themselves forward. They wouldn't say who they were, but clearly they came from House Velaryon in some way. The claim was Laenor, but he was gay. The suggestion is that was just a cover story for the fact that they are actually the bastard children of this guy here, Corlys Velaryon, who perhaps did not wish to acknowledge them while his wife was still alive, but once his wife is dead, he does. And the two of them as I say, they come quite significant. Adam does become a dragon rider, and he later, and this is something I dearly hope they do, he later becomes one of only two people we know of to actually set foot on the Isle of Faces on his dragon. Alyn tries to claim sheep stealer, fails, which is intriguing in and of its own right, because the two of them, it would appear, have very similar ancestry. It implies that there's more to bonding than just having a certain amount of Valyrian blood there in your sort of bloodline, in your genetic inheritance. There are other levels to what's going on there. But he fails to become a dragon rider. But he, as well as his brother, get legitimized. They become Adam and Alyn Velaryon. And that means that Alyn then, at the end of all of this, will inherit, and he will become known as Alyn Oakenfist. And he then becomes quite a legend himself over the course of when we get to the Regency. So he's going to be important, not perhaps in so much in the dance, but in the aftermath of the dance, he will become important. And this is the first time we've seen him. Michelle Romo saying they have to show the Isle of Faces. It's just too good to pass up. Yeah, well, I think they will show the outside of it. We have seen in the last trailer, we saw a little bit of it, the island down below in the middle of the lake. So we've seen the outside of it now. They might just have Adam and we just see him from the outside go and land down and then take off again later. But we don't know. It would be a hugely big thing and quite distracting for a number of people who aren't as deep into the lore as we are if they suddenly introduced a whole load of green men and children of the forest to be meeting somebody who's actually not long for this world. A quick flick through. Jackie C saying, I heard a leak saying that Nettles will be in the show. I mean, I hope Nettles is in the show. It's, as I say, it doesn't surprise me that she's not there amongst the first Dragon Seeds that they announced, but it's a matter of whether they, true to form, allow her to come through later. And my instinct is that they will, but they wanted, for a short period, Baylor to have a little bit more action. Andrew K saying, I do hope the scale of the Isle of Faces was just a bit wonky in the last trailer. The scale looked a bit off. Yeah, it did a little bit. Gabriel Miller saying, did the Dornish even enter into the dance? Well, the Dornish weren't part of the Seven Kingdoms at the time, so they were very happy to just let the Seven Kingdoms do whatever it wanted. So they weren't sort of a formal part. At the end of the dance, then there were some Dornish raids. They made or tried to make best use of the fact that the Seven Kingdoms were by that point pretty weak. Jay Matthews saying it would be interesting to see how the show deals with the fact that a dragon cannot bond with a new rider while their previous rider still lives. Yes, it will, but I think we can't take this as a point of principle unless we see this as the case. Now, what you're talking about there is sea smoke. Laenor Velaryon, in the books, it's very clear he died. On the show, they kept him alive and allowed him to elope and live the life that he always wanted to lead, abandoning his dragon. Now, there is in a previous trailer, we have had what looked like Rhaenyra confronting Adam Velaryon and on a beach, perhaps just like, this dragon's already got an owner, how are you doing it? To which I suppose if you wanted to do a quick lore workaround, and they've got George R. Martin on side here. George R. Martin is not writing this, but all of the big law changes are run by him. He's obviously not going to come out and say, no, I absolutely disagree with that. But the mood music he gave from the first season was that, yes, he was in favor of what they have done here, in particular a few things like the Song of Ice and Fire, Aegon's prophecy bit, that did come from him, and was agreed, or was at least agreed with him. Here, if you want to do a workaround, you could very easily say, well, okay, so that you can have an exception if the person is, if the Dragon Rider is still living, but they've given up their bond, and the person who takes it on is their heir, or something like that. You could get around that relatively easily, or is of close kin to them, or you could just say, actually, that's not true. You can have a dragon which can have a bond with more than one person if that person has deliberately turned their back on the bond. There were rather fun theories, I have to say, at the time when members of the fandom realised that Laenor still being alive would present this problem, that perhaps Adam of Hull, Adam Velaryon, was actually going to turn out to be Laenor returned, but in disguise, which was quite fun as far as memes go, but yeah, it didn't seem really that likely, and we have now seen pictures of Adam Velaryon, so we know that it's not the case. And Michelle Ramos saying, I wonder if him being able to bond with Adam is supposed to be the implication that Laenor died. Yeah, so that's the other thing that we don't know. That perhaps Laenor has died. It's been a while. He's been overseas. We don't know what happened to him. Maybe this is the way that Rhaenyra finds out that he has died for whatever reason. Let's go to another set here. In fact, did we finish these ones? Yes, we did. Let's go to another set here. So this is my set of random images that are not part of the big plot lines, but they're interesting nonetheless. The first one, this is Alicent. What she's doing, I don't know. As I say, Alicent cuts a very different figure in the trailers that we've seen. A lot more contemplative, a lot more peace-loving, a lot more regretting her actions, perhaps, or regretting the consequences of her actions. We had a picture from a couple of trailers ago where she was standing in a rather diaphanous gown, it has to be said, gazing out over the lake in front of her. Perhaps this is the lake that she's gazing out of. Don't know. There was a lot of questions of why she was doing that. I wondered whether it was a dream sequence, maybe. This looks like maybe it's not a dream sequence, but she does just want to get out to nature and just stop and contemplate life. Maybe that's what's going on. Very happy for a better suggestion on that one. It's out of all of the different images we've got, this is the one that you just go, well, it doesn't naturally fit anywhere. So we're just sort of like putting a finger in the air and hoping we perhaps capture, sort of accidentally guess what the right thing is. This is a crown falling. Why? I mean, I'd say from that, I think that's Aegon's crown. Again, happy to be contradicted there. He does get quite badly injured, or should get quite badly injured in this season. So perhaps this is just symbolically the crown falling from his head, because after, again, spoilers, after what happens at the Battle of Rook's Rest, yes, they've taken out Rhaenys and Meleys, but Sunfire gets hugely badly damaged, and Aegon himself is not quite close to death, but he is so badly injured that for the next year or so he has to be tranquilized. He's only sort of conscious really for a couple of hours of the day. He can no longer act as being king, and so metaphorically the crown does fall from him, and metaphorically Aemond does pick it up. This I think this is fantastic. 3 dragon eggs. Now, this immediately makes us think of Dany's dragon eggs, but I suspect this probably isn't Dany's dragon's eggs. This will be Rhaena of Targaryen, as in Baelor and Rhaena, the twins. She's the one who did not have a dragon. Baelor, we've seen already here. Rhaena does not have a dragon. As part of the deal which was struck to get Team Arryn and the Vale onto Rhaenyra's side, the agreement was that the Vale would have a dragon to protect it, which turns out to be Joffrey's dragon, and Rhaena goes with Joffrey to basically be fostered in the Vale because it's seen as a safe place. Rhaenyra is trying to get those she loves, the children that she loves, into safe places. Rhaena takes with her 3 dragon eggs. Her dragon egg hasn't hatched yet. She prays over it daily, but 3 of these go off into the Vale. I suspect these are those 3. One of them will hatch eventually, which will be quite significant. Here we've seen glimpses of this before, but this is going to be the best shots that we have so far. Jacaerys heads on his mission up north. His mission is basically to get, first of all, the Arryns, secondly, the Manderleys, and thirdly, the Starks on side. The Arryns he manages relatively easily because for a number of reasons, but there's a family link in there with Rhaenyra. The Manderleys just takes a promise of a politically advantageous marriage. The Starks probably were the ones that they were most concerned about. In the book, Jace arrives at Winterfell and forms quite a strong bond quite quickly with Cregan Stark. And this is Cregan Stark, the guy in the background. In the front, that is Jace. And very clearly, they're at the wall. So this isn't just at Winterfell. Why? Why did they change that when on the surface going to Winterfell would probably be enough? It's possible. In fact, I would put it at more than 50-50 now, that the big lore addition that they made in season 1, this idea that Aegon invaded because he had a prophecy about, although it's not worded as such, about the others, and that the Targaryens would need to rule and keep the 7 kingdoms strong. That's why he invaded in the first place. That vision has been passed down through each generation. It's entirely possible that that is going to come up in a different way here. Cregan Stark may well be showing north of the wall and saying something along the lines of, "We are here guarding the realms of men against whatever would come from the north." And we haven't heard Rhaenyra tell Jace this story, what is passed down from generation to generation, from king to heir. But maybe she did. Her father told her, obviously, before she inherited, and maybe she, in a time of war, decides that she has to tell Jace. So maybe he's heading up to the north, to Winterfell, with this on his mind, fresh on his mind, in fact. Here, why else would they stage it at the wall if not if they're going to have some kind of conversation about what is beyond the wall? This is a dagger. I'm very happy for anybody to tell me whose hands these might be. And this, we've got a few different snapshots of this. This is what looks to be quite a fascinating subplot that isn't really there in the book, or at least is played up a whole lot more from what it looks like on the TV show. We get this: the enemy within is more insidious, and a look at Damon. How is he the enemy within? We'll come back to that image in a moment. But here we have the realm's only hope is in a leader strong enough to unite it. This seems to be what Damon thinks, and follows it up with Rhaenyra asking him flat out, "Do you accept me as your queen and ruler?" And there's a long pause. We also then get this image here of now. Is that looks to me like Damon? It may or may not. He's heading towards the Iron Throne there. Is this just a dream? Is this an imagining of what he could have? He spent a lot of his life thinking that he was the heir to the Iron Throne after Viserys, only to discover that he wasn't. This was one of the first great bust-ups that he had with his brother when it turns out actually he's not the heir after all. Rhaenyra is. Them there being a rift between Damon and Rhaenyra is sort of part and parcel of where the books go. The TV show has portrayed them as being a lot more idealized as a couple. It has to be said. In the book, then he is ruthlessly. If you read between the lines, I think he is ruthlessly trying to get as close to the throne as he can through most of his life. And at the end of it, she there's a complete breakdown in relationship between her and him. He basically spends most of this war not with her, not by her side. He's out there at Harrenhal or in the Riverlands or something like that. So, and he strikes up this very strong bond with Nettles, and that he seems to value more highly than his relationship with Rhaenyra. So the fact that there's a kind of a rift going on in this marriage is not new. For them to raise it here at this point so directly, it would appear, with him doubting whether she is the right person to be leading the Seven Kingdoms, that is new. So let's keep an eye on that one. Let's see whether or not, if that is Damon, whether that is him thinking about the Iron Throne and whether he should be the person to actually go there. Let's go back to this one. I included this here in my slide pack because my first, without tilting my head, I thought this was Damon, and it's not actually. This is Aemond. You can see he's not got the eye patch on, but you can just sort of see the glint of the stone that he has in that eye socket. Now, I said right at the very beginning we don't get to see Alice Rivers. Maybe she is just here. Those are her hands. Maybe when Aemond gets to Harrenhal, then he is greeted by Alice Rivers, basically, and he falls head over heels in lust/love for her. I think this is our first inkling of a small look at Alice Rivers. This doesn't seem to fit anywhere. Those look to me like Helena's eyes. Again, feel free to tell me if I'm wrong on this one. If so, this would seem to be because there seems to, are those fans or something? I don't know, but it certainly doesn't seem to be the look that she would strike after what happens with Blood and Cheese, where we're basically told that she did not wish to engage with anyone at all. And finally, there we have Rhaenyra. So that's the quick run through of the trailer. As I say, this you should view this within the light of the other trailers we've had, and we can pick up quite a clear, I think, quite a clear and broad outline of the action that is going to be happening through this season. Now, that fits certainly at a high level with what happens with the books. Where does that take us up to? Well, most of what we've seen, it has to be said, I think, most of what we've seen is in the first 4 episodes, the first half of the season. So the bits that I'm not clear on here, if we're kind of like ticking off what happens, so we have Damon taking Harrenhal and a few battles in the Riverlands. We have Blood and Cheese. We have the Battle of the Cargill Twins. We have Battle of Rook's Rest. We have the Lannister and Hightower armies starting to move east northeast. And we have very probably, therefore, if that takes us up just for the first 4 episodes or so, we've got the deposing of Otto Hightower as Hand. You've got to ask how far we go with this. I think, if I'm right, that what we have there is Aemond and Alice Rivers, that means we're at least going to get as far as Aemond and Kristen Cole taking Harrenhal, leaving King's Landing open. What I said when they were starting to film this, where I would personally end this series, is with Rhaenyra taking King's Landing. I think that is showing the first arc of this civil war, which is from a point where the Greens were in control and looking in a very strong position to a position where Team Black were suddenly in control and looking in a very strong position. So we're going to see the Dragon Seeds. What I do not know is if we're going to see the Battle of the Gullet. That's probably the big thing that I'm uncertain of. My instinct is no. They will probably push that back to next season. But yeah, I think the potential is definitely there for this to lead up to Team Black retaking King's Landing. Okay, with that, let's go and see if we've got any more questions in the chat. Matthew Stewart saying, I believe we may see the others at a glance when Jace is at the wall. Not something I want, but I think HBO will want that link expanded on. Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on how they do it. I would probably be in two minds about that. Because, yeah, I think it would be really cool. But then also the whole point, the premise of A Song of Ice and Fire is that the others have been missing for all of this time. And now they're back, and we can get hints that they've been around for 30, 40 years or something like that. But for the Night's Watch to be actively spotting them from the walls, that kind of seems to, for me, that kind of seems to undermine the situation that we've had established from the beginning of A Song of Ice and Fire. Raven's Oath saying Vermithor is my favorite dragon. Yep. Andrew Kay saying might be a nice addition if Cregan's uncle, who was slow to relinquish power, got sent to the wall on House of the Dragon. Yeah, it might work quite well. You do have to wonder why Cregan was there, because it's a long old sort of march from Winterfell up to the wall, and if they're trying to say that Jace landed at Winterfell and then Cregan said, well, I'm just heading up to the wall just to see what's going on. Come with me and we can discuss stuff. That doesn't quite hang right with my understanding of Jace being on a very urgent mission. And also it gets us away from a lot of and I wasn't expecting them to expand on these hugely, but that there are a few extra little stories that Mushroom told, to do with Sarah Snow, to do with dragon eggs. And if we're not in Winterfell, then those things won't be happening, which would be disappointing. Let's have a quick flick through the chat. Raven's Oath saying takes a while to get to the wall from the Winterfell via foot. Yeah, we did get some images of people on horseback, sort of seemingly heading north, members of the Night's Watch. So, I mean, I'm not discounting that they may do that, that Jace lands at Winterfell and then sort of joins a group of people heading up north. That doesn't quite make sense to me, but yeah, maybe. Woodward Net saying going to bed, it's getting late. Good night to you. Andrew K saying Aegon removing Otto should be his embracing of his true power and flexing it. Yeah, absolutely, but also his anger and frustration. Matthew Stewart saying, I think Sarah Snow isn't going to happen. Sarah Hess alluded to that today. I did see that. Sarah Hess, I think, is one of the directors. She said, don't expect too much or something along those lines. So, yeah, we will see the Starks. We will see the Wall. We will see the Pact of Ice and Fire. We may see something to do with the others, but the Winterfell subplots, I think we won't. Andrew K saying, I expect Aegon II will be the breakout performance this season, and his long-term injured status will allow for displaying his acting range in future seasons as well. Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a lot of potential for him to show good acting in this season. Let's put it that way. Okay. I think with that, I will start to draw this one to a close. So we've done two live streams today. If you got to the end of this one and you were wondering whether I was going to do a live stream or breakdown of the Rings of Power trailer, which happened at the same time, pretty much as this one, I have done that one, hence the two different sides to the background. I did that before this one, so if you come from this one, just go and have a look on the channel. You will find it absolutely fine. Okay, I will be back for a normal live stream this Thursday coming. I think we're back to a Song of Ice and Fire one there. We're going to the Westerlands there, so that's what you got to look forward to there. We're about a month away from House of the Dragon. As a sort of vague review, I really liked this trailer. I thought all of the trailers have been really good for House of the Dragon. I'm feeling really optimistic about it. But if you are watching this back a bit later and would like to see some more live streams, there is a link appearing somewhere around here. If you would like to support this channel, best way to do that, thank you first of all, but the best way to do that is via Patreon. The link is appearing somewhere around here. I will be back again on Thursday. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, moderators. Thank you, patrons. Fantastic job, moderators and patrons. You know I cannot do this without you. But take care, and I will see you again in a couple of days.